Hey everybody, this week we test out a new Rikon dust collector with a 1 micron filter. Well, I've got one of the cheapest dust collectors you can get from Harbor Freight. It's 1 horsepower with a 30 micron dust bag, which works pretty well for the heavier wood chips, but for the fine dust, it leaks out and it goes everywhere. And this dust is like Ferdinand Magellan. It explores everywhere, every nook and cranny it can find. And kind of like hot glue, it sticks to everything. So I think we can do a little bit better for our own shop. But if you're just getting into the game, you can spend about $150 and get a basic dust collection system. I started out with one from Harbor Freight. For around $300, you can get a better system with an aluminum impeller. But I wanted the better dust collection with a 1 micron filter. And in fact, if you price it out separately, the filter is about half the cost of this total device. But this model 60-101 provides a couple of other features, like a 5-inch main port. It'll split out to 2 4-inch ports in case you're running more than one piece of equipment in the shop at a time. Now in my case, I'm never going to do that. I'm just working from machine to machine. But I really wanted the flexibility to hook up a couple of machines at the same time and get me that better dust collection with the 1 micron filter. So now, let's put the thing together. Super speed. Now it comes with a relatively small, clear bag, and you can buy bigger bags for this, but I was really impressed with the spring-loaded band that tightens around the bag. It's pretty snug and makes a good fit. And with the steel mounting brackets, it's pretty easy to hang on the wall. And this is a device that is designed to hang on the wall. It's heavy though, so it was kind of hard to lift up. Let's start off with some testing, comparing the old Harbor Freight dust collector with the Rikon. The Harbor Freight first. And although you can see the dust coming into the hose, you're going to see a distinct difference when we plug in the Rikon. But if you don't have any kind of dust collection system, this works out just fine. Now I'm using the same amount of dust for this test. Again, this is a mix of sawdust, fine, and some thicker shavings. But you can see that it pulls the dust into the hose significantly better at a much higher volume. Much better suction. Well, okay, it won't pull water out of the ocean or suck trees out of the ground, but, you know, metaphor. The Rikon does a really nice job. Now let's check the noise difference between the Harbor Freight and the Rikon. The Harbor Freight machine is going to run just over 80 decibels. And the Rikon is a little bit louder, and I think it probably has something to do with the aluminum impeller. But it is pretty loud. You should probably wear ear protection in the shop. And now by adding the sawdust separator, which is a device I had even with my old Harbor Freight, let's check the dust collection. And so over the course of a couple of days, I had some trim work to do and some material to run through the planer. And I thought I'd check and see how the dust collection was working with the Rikon. And so I also have a Rikon planer. In fact, I have a couple of tools from Rikon, and I'm pretty satisfied with them overall. But when you're running an electric planer like this, it seems like half of the shavings go down the vacuum tube, and the other half spit out the front. But it's still collected pretty nicely in the garbage can. You'll see in a minute. I also hooked up the regular shop vac hose. I have a reducer for that so that I can work the vacuum around. In fact, I have to use the smaller diameter hose on my table saw, but it seemed to do a pretty good job still pulling it into the dust separator. And the fine dust, of course, winds up inside the bag. Now the 60-101 also comes with a crank handle and has a paddle on the inside to help knock the fine dust down in the bag. But as a first impression, I'm really pleased with the performance of this tool. But there's a couple things that aren't so great. So to begin with, this is designed to be a wall-mounted tool, which is great, except that the second port is right up against the wall. I'm not quite sure how you'd get another hose on there. Now, I think I can do it because I'm between a plastic sheet and a couple of studs, but I think this is a bit of a design problem. Also, you'll notice because of the weight of the canister, the overall canister flexes on the motor mount. And that's not great because it means that it puts the impeller slightly off center inside the housing. And the fine dust is leaking out. There's a couple of spots I was able to find the fine dust actually leaking out of the housing and then landing back on top of the canister. And so I'm going to have to correct those areas as well. So I've got a little tuning to get this thing ready to go and to fix these leaks, but overall, the suction on it is fantastic. From 750 to 1100 cubic feet per minute is great suction. The 1 micron filter canister is really why I bought this machine. I think the aluminum impeller is going to be indestructible, and it's easy enough to mount with that wall bracket, but not so great. You got to reposition the dust ports. I think I've got to fix the canister leaks. And because it's 65 pounds and it vibrates, I think I'm going to build a stand for it so that it can sit off the wall. Overall, I really like it so far, though it did need a little attention right out of the box. And I love the high volume suction on the 1 micron filter, features that normally require you to buy a machine around the $1,500 price point. Overall, big thumbs up from me.
Again, it's a rich thing.